I remember, being at work one day and nothing about the situation had changed at all, but I just wasn't worked up about it.
You're listening to Overwhelmed Working Woman, the podcast that helps you be more calm and more productive by doing less. I'm your host, Michelle Gauthier, a former overwhelmed working woman and current life coach. On this show, we unpack the stress and pressure that today's working woman experiences. And in each episode, you'll get a strategy to bring more calm, ease, and relaxation to your life. Hello, and thank you so much for joining. Today, we're going to hear from my former client, Kari. I love her story because she was feeling stuck and unfulfilled at her job, but wasn't sure if she wanted to make the drastic change of trying to move jobs or industries. And so what she did instead, and you'll learn in this episode, was applied some strategies for managing her work frustrations, got herself into an environment where she had lots of support outside of work, and then started planning for what she did want in her life. We're going to give you more details on all of those. And I just have to drop this early to say, she also did get a puppy. Maybe that did or did not help the situation. Let's hear from Kari. Thank you so much, Kari, for being here. I appreciate you joining and maybe getting yourself out of your comfort zone to be on a podcast. Kari was a member, as I mentioned, of a group coaching cohort. And so my questions for you will be centered around that. The first one being, when you heard about the opportunity to join group coaching, how did you feel? And then why did you decide to join?
When I first heard about group coaching, I thought, I bet that will be super great for those people who sign up for that. And then I moved on with my day.
Yeah.
The reason I decided to actually take the plunge and do it was that I was feeling some frustration at my job, just feeling kind of stuck, underappreciated, just kind of down on it. And that was starting to get concerning to me because I spend a huge chunk of my waking hours at my job. And the fact that I wasn't really feeling very happy or fulfilled there was starting to bleed over into the rest of my life. And so I wanted to see if there was a way to fix that and be a little happier.
Okay, that's great. When you say it was bleeding over into other areas of your life, tell us what you mean by that.
I was having a hard time just sort of turning it off and then sort of reintegrating back into my outside life. Like I was grumpy still after work. I was a little shorter with my husband than he deserved, me to be. And I just wasn't feeling my best self.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. Because when you're spending a big chunk of your day, I mean, you're not saying you felt stressed out. I'm putting these words in your mouth, but feeling stressed or overwhelmed or underappreciated or whatever it is, it's hard to just walk out the door and be like, okay, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go home and go on with my life. So that makes sense. Did you have hesitations about being in a group?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how that would work because obviously I wouldn't know any of the people in it. And I tend to be a person who is not interested in being vulnerable with people who haven't known me for like 14 years. So that part made me a little bit nervous. But ultimately, I sort of reasoned that we were all there for the same reason, that we had something that we really wanted to work on, wanted to have going better in our lives. And the only sort of way to do that well was to be vulnerable. And since we were all being vulnerable together, that made it feel safer.
Yes, absolutely. Same for me when I first joined a group coaching of another coach when I first started coaching. And I thought, I don't think I'm ever going to talk. That's what I decided. Like, I'm just going to be quiet. And I'm sure on like the first or second call, I was, because when everybody else is, it feels good to be like, oh, you're not the only one. I too don't love being vulnerable, but I'm going to tell you what's going on with me. Okay. So eventually, as the group started, can you remember a point at which you started thinking, okay, I think I feel better?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember like it was February 8th or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I remember just, being at work one day and nothing about the situation had changed at all. But I just wasn't worked up about it. It was like, like it was like being dead inside, but in a good way. Like it just
That's such a great explanation. Purposely dead inside to my own benefit.
like just sort of being able to be like, yeah, this is annoying. And, a little while ago, this would have like really gotten me riled up, and I would have taken that home with me and either had to, tell my husband all about why I was so worked up, or I would just come home grumpy. But I was just like, it just sort of is what it is. And I can't change that. So
Yes. Yes. So nothing about your actual job changed, correct?
correct.
Yeah. So it was just the way that you were looking at it, your expectations, and all those things that changed the way that you feel
Yeah.
and feel dead inside in a good way. I
But
love
in a
that.
good
That's like the
way.
best. I need to steal that.
Just, yeah, not being so reactive to the situation I was in was really helpful.
Yeah. What somebody else is doing. I think it's so easy to put other people in charge of the way that we feel. So if they do this, then I'm going to feel that way. And once you take that back, it's amazing how much control you have over how you feel, no matter what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would you say was your favorite or best thing that you learned in coaching?
The most important thing I learned in coaching, I mean, there's a lot of important things like adjusting my expectations or going through the thought model, but I felt like they all really hinged on my most important thing, which is to really honestly evaluate what is in my control and what is outside of my control, and then to commit to only working on the things that are inside of my control. So, like adjusting expectations, I was expecting people to behave in ways in which they had never behaved.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I was just setting myself up to suffer there, because why on earth would they all of a sudden change their behavior? But I needed to before I could adjust those expectations, I needed to fully realize that their behaviors were not at all in my control, but my expectations about them were.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's such a great example. And I think sometimes people will say, well, I know that's not in my control. And I think that's the easy part, to be like, oh, it's not in my control, but then to actually act from there. And the second part that you said is the most powerful, which is choosing to only work on things that are in my control instead of spending literally any energy thinking about what someone else is doing. If you can do that, the rush of energy that you get back for yourself and the things that you care about in life can be really amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, it intellectually before coaching. You understand on some level that you can't actually control other people,
Yeah.
but it doesn't stop you from trying.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I feel like I was going to the Olympics for trying to control what other people are doing. I gave it the best try ever. It just does not work ever.
I know I try my absolute best to get the situation the way I want it. But I just couldn't do it. And so it really was more helpful to focus on what I was doing instead of what everyone else was doing.
Yes. And I think that we talked about this in coaching, but you're just reminded me of a fun tool that I use myself sometimes, which is to try to guess someone's expectations, like what they're actually going to do. So you have your expectation, like maybe, I don't know, I have my expectation that my daughter's going to be happy when she wakes up in the morning and get ready for school on time. And then you have that expectation that never ever comes true, to your example. And then to kind of turn it into a game to say, I'm going to try to guess exactly what she's actually going to do. And then I'll win. So when she wakes up and she's kind of cranky at me and she's dragging her feet the whole time and barely getting out the door to school, I'm like, I won. I knew it. I nailed it.
Gamify it.
Yes, exactly. To turn it into a fun game, because then you get to be right. And that's always fun. When you can know that you're going to be right. Okay. All right, great. How is your life different now? So just for a reference for everybody listening, you finished coaching, let's see, 4 or so months ago. So it's been a little while. So how is your life different now since you finished group coaching?
So like I said, like my problem wasn't solved the way that I had envisioned it was going to be solved, because I still have the same job. I still have most of the same things that frustrate me about that job. But I do feel like I am calmer about it. And the things that used to really, I mean, it's not that I've like never gotten upset since coaching happened, but I don't get upset as often, not nearly as often. And that I think has also allowed me to look at the frustrations I have with more logic and thoughtfulness and not just reacting emotionally to everything is terrible. It's like, well, let's think about it a little bit more. And
Yes, exactly. We just did an episode a couple weeks ago where the guest was explaining that when you get upset about something, you literally just can't think clearly. You don't have access to clear thoughts, biologically speaking. So, yeah, if you can look at them as like a gamified laugh, your annoyances, then you can really figure out how to solve the actual problem. That's great. That's such a great example. Okay, as a random bonus question that I just thought of, in group coaching, one of the things we do in like the second or third session is we listen to a future envisioning meditation and then you create a vision board. And Kari, your vision board part that came true, one of the parts that came true was my absolute favorite. So can you tell everyone about that, please?
yeah, so my vision board had all kinds of stuff on it. Some of the things were a little bit more general and I've stuck with those, and some things were a little bit more specific. And most of those haven't materialized yet. But the big one that did was I put a puppy on my vision board because I am such a dog person. I love dogs so much. And we didn't have one. And I really, really wanted one. And now we do have a puppy and it's thrilling.
That was the best. I think it was like the last week of coaching or something that you posted it in the Facebook group. And we were all like,
yeah. Everyone's like, good for you. Way to go.
Yes, exactly. And the point of that is not if you join group coaching that you will get a puppy, but if you join group coaching, you will definitely learn how to focus on what you want for your ideal day in your future, and then learn how to make choices about your life in that direction instead of just not thinking about it or hoping it's going to magically come true somehow. So that was just like a fun bonus, was that you also got a puppy.
Yeah, and you have a little group of people who will cheer for you when you do it, which was also lovely.
Exactly. That was so fun. I mean, every time somebody had a good result, we were all like, yes, that's amazing. Yeah, it's true. You do get really bonded. I did a survey at the end of coaching and asked people, like, what was your favorite part about being in the group? And every single person in both of the groups I've done so far said the people. It's so fun to be with the people who are also trying to change their lives and encouraging us and seeing us as way better than we see ourselves. You know, we're like, we feel like we're not making as much progress. And they remind us, yeah, you are. You're doing awesome. Okay, now the two questions that I ask every guest. The first one is, what's something that you can do to make yourself feel less stressed or overwhelmed?
Okay, the thing that I do that makes me feel less stressed or overwhelmed is just to like write it down. Everything gets written down. If you have a system for yourself currently, like that's great. If you don't have a system, I really recommend that people get a system, like the getting things done methodology or something like that. But because our brains are so much better at processing information than they are about just storing things, we want to use our brain and all that magical power in there to process and solve problems and get things done. And we're just slowing it down by having all of these things that we're trying to remember to do. So when anytime a random thought pops into my head that I need to remember, like, I got to get shoes for that wedding in July, I write it down and then my brain can relax and be like, okay, cool. She wrote it down. Now she will remember to do it. I don't have to worry about forgetting it. I can go back to being fully engaged with whatever I was doing or with whoever I was talking to. And I think that that really helps me focus and increases my productivity, which then in turn makes me feel less overwhelmed because I'm getting things done and I'm not just getting pulled off in a bunch of different directions all the time.
Yes. And how do you make sure, for example, if you just write that down on a random page of a notebook and then you never flip back to that page, it's not going to get done. Or at least in my case, it wouldn't get done. I don't know that get things done methodology. So what is yours? Tell us more.
Yeah, getting things done is sort of like one of the ways you can do it is through like GQs. But the way that I haven't quite fully adopted that system yet, but one of the ways I do it is it's a little anachronistic, but I still use like a paper planner and I write things down in it and it's by date and I look at that every single day. And then when something gets done, you cross it off. When I have the thought immediately, I'm like, oh, I got to do that. I will go be like, okay, I got to get shoes for the wedding in July. It's at the end of July. So I need to do I'll spend some time this weekend and I'll write it down.
So you put it where you're going to do the thing.
Yeah, when I schedule for when I'm going to schedule it for when I'm going to do it. Or, if it's a personal thing that I think of at work, I will send myself an email to my personal email account from my work one. Or if it's the opposite, I will send myself a work email just so that it's present. And then before I can file that email or cross the item off, I have to either take the action or schedule it some other time.
That's a great plan because then you do exactly what you said, get it out of your head, but also ensure that it is somewhere where you'll see it again or think about it again. That's great. I love that. Great tip. Okay. And then what's something you consistently do to save time?
I'm a big meal planner. I'm not necessarily huge on prep, but I love to plan everything. Like right now, I am meal planned through July 10th.
Oh my gosh. I'm so jealous. Once again, tell us your methods. That's amazing.
Sometimes I have to wait sort of like for inspiration to strike, but when it does, when I'm in the mood where like everything sounds delicious and I really want to do it, I go in and my husband made me like a little website where I can like plug in what my meal plan is. And it really saves me a bunch of time because I'm not having to think about it every day or every week, being like, oh, what are we going to eat? I don't know. And then having the plan of what we're going to eat for the week makes grocery shopping a one and done, not like, now I got to go back to the store because I didn't think that we were going to have this food and now we are and I don't have it. I mean, it can change. Sometimes we get an invitation for dinner to go out that I hadn't considered when I made the plan, but then I just bump that meal to another day and it's one less day I have to plan for the next week or whatever. So
that is amazing. Oh my gosh. And this is kind of like the question about the to-dos. So how do you get from your plan of the recipe to your grocery list to the food being in your house?
So I have an app or some sort of, I guess it's an app called Pepper Plate where I store recipes that I find on the internet. And then I have the website my husband made me has like the calendar for the meal plan, but it also has a place where I can make and color code a grocery list. So, and then I arrange the things in the order in which I will go through the store and it's color coded by store. So I know that this is going to happen at Aldi and this is going to be at Trader Joe's and this is going to be at Schnucks. And then I do my own grocery shopping still. But just having that list makes it so efficient.
Yes, in order too.
Mm-hmm. I know the path I'm going to go through the store and the list reflects that. And it's just easy.
That is so amazing. I can't even imagine if we tried to calculate how much time just that step, just the step of having the list in the order that you're going to walk through the grocery store could save you over time. That is so amazing. Great job. I absolutely love that. So even if people just take one of those steps, like planning the meals out or planning their groceries or whatever, I think that could be a huge win. Will you say the name of that web or app again that you use? I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, it's called Pepper Plate, and it's a place where you can auto import from a bunch of websites. Some of them you have to do like a manual import. I don't know if it's the best one that exists. I just started using it years ago and now I feel like, and now I'm still using it because that's where all my stuff is.
Yeah, I love that. I save stuff on Pinterest, which is not helpful as far as like pulling it into somewhere or putting that onto a grocery list. I just have to like manually put on my grocery.
Yeah, I think there's a functionality in Pepper Plate that I don't use, but I think you can like add to shopping list or whatever else. You can share recipes with friends and everything else. So it's helpful for me.
I love it. I love it. Those are two great answers. Thank you so much. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to say about coaching or anything else?
One question that you didn't ask me, but I did prepare an answer for.
Okay.
was just for my favorite part about group coaching overall. And it was partly the people, but also it was just, I really appreciated the accountability of it because I'm not the type of person who takes the time to invest in myself like that. And if you had just given me the workbook and been like, okay, have fun, good luck to you, I would have maybe gotten through a third of it. And then it would have just petered off the way things do. But knowing that we were going to meet on Friday and that people were going to ask me about the progress I made and I wanted to hear about the progress they made, and knowing that they would be on to me if I hadn't done the work that I said I was
Yes.
going to do, it really kept me going through the entire program.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you added that. Thank you for saying that. And then something that I offer in the program is when you come to every class and you are prepared and you participate, you get a bonus at the end of free one-on-one coaching sessions as well, which you definitely earned. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. That was great. As you just heard from Kari, who was a member of my group coaching program called The Good Life, you can totally change your life by applying simple tools that I teach inside that group. I would love to have you in the next round. Registration opens in July, but right now I have the pre-registration open so that you can get on the wait list. Getting on the wait list is important because when you're on the wait list, you get notified before everybody else that it's open. So if you are for sure you want to do it and you want to get the first seat, get on the wait list. I do limit the number because, like Kari said, we are small and supportive groups. So I do limit the number. If you're on the wait list, you can sign up first. And then if you're on the wait list, you get an extra bonus that everybody else won't get when they sign up during regular time, which is a bonus one-on-one coaching session with me, which is valued at $250. So go to the link in the show notes and get on the wait list now, and you will be the first to know when registration is open. Also, one other fun thing is now you can send me a text. So if you have a comment or a question about this episode, just click in the link in the show notes that says send a text. I just got a text earlier today that said, I loved the podcast this week. It was super helpful. So thank you so much for that nice feedback. If you have a question or an episode idea, or even you just want to tell me something, go right ahead. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, don't forget to sign up for the group coaching, and I will see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Overwhelmed Working Woman podcast. If you want to learn more about my work, head over to my website at michellegothier.com. See you next week.